Here we go. Let's get into Black Facts.
Dr. Ricardo J. Whyte currently is a section chief of psychiatry at Dignity Health Hospital. He's double board certified in adolescent and adult psychiatry, as well as addiction psychiatry. Dr. Whyte is a proud founder of the Mastermind Institute that has developed the Thrive membership that supports its members in establishing life balance and resilience fortification. As a distinguished thought leader and subject matter expert, Dr. Whyte launched blacktherapy.com to start a campaign for the healing of the Black community in response to recent racial tensions. So today we're going to talk about Black men and mental health. Black men are complex and most have a strong, fearless exterior. With the daily assaults they face, such as racism and discrimination, it makes us wonder, how does a Black man in America maintain his sanity and keep his cool? According to a blog post on Talkspace.com, Black men face a unique challenge in what is most prized about them. Many say their looks and their bodies, but rarely acknowledge their intellect and emotional intelligence. The blog writer references a book authored by Bell Hooks, titled We Real Cool, Black Men and Masculinity, which addresses the lack of love and acceptance that Black men face, creating an emotional crisis. Black men as a group often experience significant amounts of psychological stress as a result of discrimination, social rejection, economic challenges, and racial injustice. In the wake of the ever-present injustice related to police aggression and brutality, there is growing concern about the impacts of these events on the mental health of Black men. Hi, Dr. Whyte. How are you?
Hi, Michelle.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this important conversation. Like I said before, I read in Therapy for Black Men that Black men between the ages of 20 to 24 have the highest suicide rate amongst Blacks of all ages, male and female. This was shocking to me. So can we talk about this? Why is this happening? And why do we as a community, or what can we do as a community to support our Black men?
60 Minutes recently featured a Black scholar in the person of Dr. David Williams. And he cataloged how there is epidemiological clarity that when you control for various factors, you can actually isolate racism as a culprit in explaining the overrepresentation of certain chronic illnesses in Blacks. So this was solid data explaining that there's a concrete consequence that's not explained by our choices,
Right.
that's significantly impacting us. It's the struggle is real.
Yes, yes, it is. So what would you say in general is the state of Black men's mental health?
Well, I think in essence, it's not good in many ways.
Right.
When you look at how factors are coalescing. Whenever there's a disaster, we tend to fare the worst. So whether it's the impact of COVID, when you look at statistics where, okay, now after being at home and now it's time to go back to school, you're seeing that in the minority populations, they're having a harder time going back to school.
Yes.
And you know that there is a special discipline required for you to kind of self-learn. And so that's why being in that, structured setting can have its advantage per se. But when you look at the various disasters that we can face as a community, because we don't actually have community in terms of resources, right. We're just community in terms of the negative experiences that we suffer. We often aren't able to dig ourselves out, as easily.
So, okay, how do we get the Black men in our lives then to open up and express their hurts instead of shoving it down? I know a lot of Black females do, right? We close up, we just press on. And our Black men do the same thing. How do we get them to open up and feel like their home is a safe space where they can be vulnerable?
Well, this is, it's unfortunate that this is a stereotype, but I think it does pan out. What you see is Black women having an easier time sort of getting with girlfriends or having the coping skills to better even articulate how they're feeling,
Right.
you know, why they're feeling, kind of cathartic and getting those emotions out, and sometimes sublimating a lot easier. And I would say as Black men, a lot of times there are very few settings that allow for vulnerability, meaningful vulnerability. I remember one of the few places I found for a therapeutic, positive setting where I could be vulnerable in a helpful setting was men's Bible study. So this was, you know, this program at my church where we as a cohort of men, we got together on a weekly basis, like you could bank on this. But besides just studying the Bible, we brought up real issues that were pertinent to us.
Right.
And we knew we could count on that as a resource where we could cathart, where we could be vulnerable, where we could keep it real. That was one rule in the room, was you have to keep it real. And it was awesome because the egos were checked at the door, and it was very cathartic. And there are too few spaces that allow us to be real in terms of our vulnerability.
So what would you say, how can we create those spaces though? Because they're needed, right? Not every man is going to go to, or not even have the access to a Bible study, to a space where they can convene with, you know, other Black men that have the same lived experiences. So how can we create those spaces, or either create an opportunity for our Black men to feel that they can be vulnerable and open up?
There are 4 questions someone who wants to minister to a Black man can ask themselves. The first is, am I available? Am I available? Do I give you the experience of being available? When I'm talking to you, are you on your phone? Are you doing something else? You know, are you, you know, hey, no, I got you. And, you know, I think it's easy for people to multitask at times, not realizing that a lot of times when we're pouring our heart out, we want your full attention. So am I available? Then the other question is, am I there for you? Am I there for you? We often talk about ride or die, you know, but you know, it's, you know, am I there for you? And then the third question would be, am I responsive? So I'm available, you know, I'm there for you, but do I respond? Do I respond in a way that's meaningful? And I think if you have in mind those questions, and you're constantly checking in with your partner to see if you do those things for them, because really what that really does is it answers the question, am I safe? Am I safe? And I would say I think for a lot of Black men, they don't feel safe. They don't feel safe. The person's not available. The person's not responsive. The person is not ride or die. The person's not safe.
Now you talk about being responsive. What exactly does that look like? Because a person can, you know, family member, a loved one, a spouse, a partner can believe that they're being, you know, available, accessible. But how can you really be responsive in an appropriate way, I guess, when somebody is, you know?
Sure. One of the most important tools in marriage is the concept of attunement, Am I attuned to you? So I would be constantly checking in to see, am I hearing you? Did I respond in a way that's meaningful? You know, I don't know if anyone's ever scratched your back, right? If anyone's ever scratched your back and you're like, to the left, to the right, there, just like that. All right, keep going. You know what I'm saying?
I love that analogy.
Well, and you've had the other experience where this guy be like, no, not there. No, not, look, stop. Stop. You just got to get you a back scratch. Forget about it. I got this. You know, and so it's that constant attunement, and not thinking that because you nailed it once, you still got it. It's attunement over time, because we as humans, we're developing. So what was in sync here does not mean it's in sync there.
Okay.
And obviously that's bilateral, but if we're talking about Black men, am I safe, man? Am I doing those things?
Okay, so you kind of answered my question. I was going to ask, what can we do as women to create a space where it doesn't appear that we're nagging our men, but we're really being there as an emotional support? So you answered that for me. But how can we also encourage our men beyond just us being there for them and being in tune with them to go and reach out for external help and not feel like, because there's such a stigma about, just in the Black community, period. It's not just with our men, it's with our, us as well. There's a stigma about reaching out and getting, therapy. That's like a dirty word, why? Why is that a stigma? And how can we, like I said, encourage our men to get external help, get therapy?
Well, step one is the easier you make it for a person, a lot of times it's going to work. But one of the problems with a lot of times with identifying a therapist is finding someone who's congruent. Okay, and so congruent meaning I feel like this person's going to understand me.
Right.
And when you're looking for a therapist, you're not looking for somebody who just agrees with you. The whole point of therapy is growth. That's the whole point. So if I'm just going to sit there and tell you how wonderful you are, you don't grow with praise, or only praise. You grow with challenge, and and the goal is to process. And sometimes you have to get out some things that are challenging for you to hear yourself say, but it's an important part of the growth process. So all that to say is it would be so cool. It'd be so cool if my wife wanted me to go to therapy, that she might look up a person and be like, okay, you know what? I found this person who I think you would really jive with, it's up to you. And as men, we love treats. So we love incentives. So, so if it's incentivized, that makes it exciting.
Okay.
Hey, well, blah, 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 you're going to get X, Y, or Z. So I would, those are some of the cool things. So as opposed to the stick, the carrot,
Okay, so I have another question. So about some of our men, okay, because rightfully so, they're very angry, right, with all of this stuff that they're seeing, this police brutality and different things that they're seeing and that are going on in our society. And a lot of them are afraid. They won't admit that they're afraid, but they're afraid to go out because, what if this happens to me, right? Many of them have been stopped, racially profiled. How do we help them deal with that pent-up anger? I know, there's been times where I've suggested to some of my, male family members, well, maybe you should go to anger management. And now I kind of realize, like, maybe that wasn't the best suggestion to make because, like I said, rightfully so, you have some pent up anger and that may not be the right setting to be able to, or it may be, I don't know. I'm asking you, how can they also deal with, the rage and the anger that they feel being accosted daily?
Well, there are at least two things that it's important to keep in mind. The first of which is excellence can be a phenomenal form of protest. It can be a phenomenal form of protest. When you are angry, when you are hurt, when you are, what have you, actually it's energy. It's energy. And so the question becomes, how are you going to let that energy out?
Okay.
But ultimately it's energy. So I know what I'm excited about. I am motivated to create a better future for those coming behind me. I'm very motivated to do that. And so the birth of Black therapy was some of these, situations where I saw this abuse. And I was like, this is how I'm going to direct my energy.
Okay.
But I think, number one, we have to recognize excellence is a form of protest, build something powerful, build something beautiful, try to create for those coming behind you an opportunity where they are in more power and have more of an ability to free themselves from this shackle of this experience for too many of us as Black Americans. That's one. But two, it's critical to remember that ours is a history in which our legacy is triumph.
Yes, yes.
It's critical to remember that.
Yes.
We are a people that overcome and overcome
Resilient.
and overcome.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that history is not recited to us. But any careful review of history will document our legacy of overcoming. And that's important to remember because we, in and of ourselves, need to understand we can overcome. It's our job not to surrender. We need to be strategic, we need to be smart, but we need to have an abiding knowledge that our ancestors have demonstrated that we do not give up. We don't give up, and we have achieved amazing things. And I think it's our job to review that history and look at it from the standpoint of how much resilience it's clear we have as a people, and get to the work of freeing ourselves.
I think we need to continue to remind ourselves of that, that we are resilient, we are resourceful, and we have overcome time and time again. I was going to ask you about what can we do to, I guess, kind of push down the sense of feeling helpless, when we see all of this stuff going on in the world. But you pretty much answered that question as well, to redirect our energy. I loved how you said that, redirect our energy to create, to be excellent. So you were going to say something.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you. And it's not just pie in the sky, because what I'm saying is this digital age has empowered us and in some ways obliterated some of the bottlenecks and some of the gatekeeping that would have decided, hey, no, you can't move forward. You've got to wait for funding. Now you create a digital product and it's not like you need a loan from a bank, you build that thing and you learn how to market it and you're off to the running. Let me be as concrete as possible.
Okay.
I can make more money selling a recipe for lemonade than selling a lemonade stand. And if I sell that recipe, I'm not isolated to that little lemonade stand.
Right.
My audience is global. So that's how we have to think. Like you can make $50 to $100 from doing a car wash, or you could sell a product teaching people how to do a car wash and make a ton more.
Right.
It's the digital age, people. Yes, let's do this.
So we're such creative people. Just as a culture, we are very creative. I like that you're saying that, to once again redirect that energy and do something positive with it. Use this time to create, to like I said, do things positive that are going to move us forward, move our family and our culture forward.
And the cherry on top, this is not the age to look for a job. This is the age to create your job.
I love that. So let's talk about blacktherapy.com. I see your t-shirt and I want you to tell our audience a little bit about Black Therapy. What is it?
Oh, okay. So Black Therapy, my goal is to give us positive messages. My goal is to destigmatize this idea of getting Black therapy. It's like my dream would be that we see Black therapy everywhere, and it's a conversation piece. And it's if we need therapy, let's get it. So again, this was launched after I saw some of the atrocities being committed against us, and I wanted to put the energy into good use. So if you go to the website, blacktherapy.com, you'll see t-shirts featured with powerful messages made in God's image. Never again, Black therapy, just concepts that it's nice to constantly have your mind in that frame of thinking. And then if you scroll to the bottom, I have a free ebook that you can download. And what it talks about is the 7 vitals to killing suicide. Because the idea is, yeah, there are people who are killing themselves, but I think there are far more people who are living lives of quiet desperation. And they're not living their purpose.
Now talk about that, kind of unpack that a little bit. Quiet desperation. Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, you can buy into the idea that there's no hope. And you can buy into the idea of just letting life happen rather than you happening to life.
That sense of helplessness.
And the whole thing where scripture says, let us make man in our image after our likenesses, we've been made to be like God, so that we're the happiest when we're creating. So in my guide, I outline the 7 vital areas within which we're supposed to create. Where we're supposed to create value. And it's really to kind of spark and energize you to say, I need to live life intentionally, because that's a critical step in killing the mindset of suicide.
And you said this is free. This is a free.
It is free.
Okay.
It is free.
So I'm just saying that out loud because I want our listeners to know this is free. This is a free tool resource that you can go and download and help you, move towards creating and kind of, like I said, moving away from feeling a sense of helplessness and all this is happening to me. I have no control over my destiny when you do.
And one extra twist that will be a pleasant surprise. You're going to see our face in that guide. You're going to see our face in that guide. You're going to see us prominently featured in that guide. Too often we don't see ourselves. I designed it so that we could see ourselves.
Can you mentioned, you touched a little bit on destigmatizing, that you decided to create this Black therapy in the, to demystify getting help, getting therapy. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, there's justified mistrust of the mental health community. There's justified mistrust. So the mental health community has had a hand in propagating racism. Okay, it has. All right. They use scholarship.
Thank you for saying that.
What's that? They literally use scholarship to call, to support racist ideas. Okay, so let's own that. And so there's justified skepticism. But that said, it's only your mental health, and so it's worth you doing the work to identify someone who can provide that support to help you deal with some of the issues that you need help with. It's worth your effort. And when you find that person, okay, and this is not a plug for myself because my clinic is actually closed, after COVID and everything like that. I've turned my attention, to kind of creating products to help people. But yeah, when you find that person, please don't hesitate to, if they're not in your network, invest in yourself. You're worth it.
Yes.
You're worth it. Invest in yourself. And these people have gone through, they've gotten the credentials, they've gotten the training. It's an investment in yourself. So a lot of people, they may say, hey, well, I don't know if I have the money, but I'll be back from my trip to Jamaica, It's like you invested in other areas, invested in your mental health. Don't be afraid to do that. Insurance companies will at times reimburse, so even if you pay up front, sometimes they if you can produce a super bill, sometimes they'll pay. So there can be other routes, but don't be afraid to invest in yourself. You're worth it.
I love that. I'm going to have to quote you on that. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself. You are worth it.
Absolutely.
We really need to let that resonate, with our spirit, seriously, because I think oftentimes, with everything that's happened, with all the, like I said, the racism, discrimination, the assaults that we face daily, we start to devalue our own, self-worth. And it's hard to realize like we are worth it. And we need to start valuing ourselves and realize that our emotional health and well-being, we only have one opportunity to be healthy in this life, right? And so we need to be intentional and make the investment. So I really appreciate you saying that. And like I said, that's going to be my little quote, invest.
You're worth it. You're absolutely worth it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we see enough images that remind us that we're worth it, or that we have value, or that celebrate our full humanity and membership in the human family. And that means we have to go out of our way to build that schema ourselves. And so sometimes therapy is part of that, or coaching, or whatever it is that you might need.
Okay. I wanted to ask you too, how do you feel about group therapy? You mentioned a little bit before, attending a Bible study for Black men. How do you feel about, just Black men or just Black community coming together in general to have kind of a group therapy session?
Well, group therapy, the value in group therapy is, especially in the construct in which, okay, you have this therapist and they're facilitating this group, often group members will take on representations of important people in your past or present, And so the therapist at times can watch how you are in the midst of those dynamics. And then there's the therapist sometimes giving you feedback, but then there's a group member giving you feedback. And sometimes the group member's tongue is not quite as tied as the therapist, so they can say it in a way where sometimes you can hear it a little better.
Right.
And they're just gonna keep it real
or
with
say
you.
it in a way that you need to hear it.
Or say it in a way that you need to hear it, the conversation that continues to keep going.
Right.
But so there can be some powerful advantages to group. And also sometimes it's a way for a therapist to leverage themselves where they may not be available for one-on-one, but they can do something in group. Because when we come together, there's something powerful that can happen.
Yes, that's why I mentioned it, because we're a communal people, and we do like to come together often for different things and, celebrations, other things that aren't so celebratory, but still we come together, we're communal people. So I thought, what better place to come together to, heal ourselves.
Absolutely. And so sometimes we have these settings, whether it's church or what have you. So sometimes we say, well, maybe I don't have to put intention into it, but no, it's worth intention. Sometimes people want to clown therapy or a therapist and not honor the reality that it is a skill. It is a hard skill, effectively communicating with a person in a way where their defenses are not triggered and the message is blocked. It's a lot of skill to tell somebody something that might be charged, but they can, it's coded in such a way where they can receive it. That's a skill. And so it's, don't minimize that. And it's also why you want to make sure that your therapist has that skill. Because there at times, the quality isn't there. But that's where the homework comes in and the diligence, because when you find it, it will be worth it. It will be worth it.
Okay. Now I want to ask something that may be a little bit controversial. Do you think that a non-Black therapist can really help, help a Black man heal or work through his issues?
Well, funny enough, you would say that. The master therapist that I know in this area is a Latino gentleman by the name of Dr. Carlos Fayard. Like, that's my dude. That's who when the case is really, really, a challenging case, I'll, hey, before you guys divorce, try my guy, Dr. Carlos Fayard. So absolutely, this guy's got 35 years in the game, PhD trained. He presides over an internship, psychology program. Guy is a director at the World Health Organization. His chops are clear. I mean, so no, I'm going to recognize that. So yeah, the simple answer is it's possible. It's possible. And therapy is about connecting.
Yes.
Therapy is about connecting. And yeah, there are aspects of your struggle that if I'm in that struggle as well, it can be leveraged. It can be leveraged effectively. So the real message is you have to do your homework.
Mm-hmm.
And the question you have to ask yourself is, am I growing? Am I growing? What is this person's credentials? Do they have do they have expertise in dealing with this problem that I'm coming in with? Okay. And am I being challenged, but am I growing?
Right.
So if you're being dismissed, or if the person has a small concept of who you are and who you could be, if they're, if they're shrinking you, excuse the pun, and shrinking your possibilities,
Right.
I would call that into question. I would call that into question.
Okay. Well, you've shared a lot of good information, not just relevant towards Black men and healing themselves and getting, to a place where they can, like I said, move forward in their own emotional well-being. But I think just as a Black community, you've given us some really good things that we need to take heed to. Are there any other final thoughts or any nuggets you want to share with us on things that we need to do moving forward so that we can not only, like I said, heal individually, but heal collectively as a community?
Well, I want to thank you, Michelle, for creating this space.
Oh,
I want to thank you for having the interest. I think sometimes we can experience spaces like this and not know the sacrifice that you're making in order to do it, or the roadblocks. So I want to thank you for that. And yeah, I want your viewership to support you. If you want more of this, please support. So that's what I would say, because we're not here accidentally.
absolutely not. Thank you. Thank you for that. I really, as you know, this is a passion for me. I really feel very passionate about, creating or improving the health outcomes of the Black community, specifically in emotional health. Mental health is one of the main components that I know that we need to heal, and we need to figure out ways in which we can support one another and move forward, as a community. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate you taking out time out of your busy schedule. I know you're truly busy, but I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And like I said, to really give us some things to think about, moving forward as far as accessing, mental health resources, therapy, in terms of thinking about redirecting our energy, and not feeling that sense of hopelessness, but moving forward in excellence and creating. I really, really love that. I think there are so many opportunities, like you shared, to create, to use this time to go within and to be quiet and think about, the talents and skills that we've been blessed with and how we can use those in a positive way. So thank you.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dr. Whyte. This conversation was essential, and one I hope we can continue to have with our families, friends, and colleagues. The more we talk about it, the more normal it will be to talk about our mental health. I want to thank you for giving me insight and educating me and our audience on how we can love and support the Black men in our families to take better care of their mental health. And to our beautiful Black men, if you need it, please get help. We love you and need you to be mentally and physically healthy so you can lead our communities and our families. The world may be against you, but we are here for you. We love you. Thank you for tuning into Black Facts, and continue to send in your show topic ideas. I want to make sure that we're discussing the health issues that are important to you. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, on Black Voice News YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time so we can know the facts.